So a recent news development in the F1 world, and a rather shocking one, you found out that Red Bull were going to change the name once again of their AlphaTauri team, but perhaps more significantly, they're going to change how it is the team functions, making it close to what would essentially be a B team, although to be fair, it already is a B team if you're being frank.
I mean, yes, it's not just a name change, right? New sponsors are coming in, there will be a whole rebranding. I believe there's going to be a new team as well. So we're not sure about that, but this is what I'm assuming at this point, because they're calling it a major like rebrand sort of a thing. But when I look at it, they're kind of going back to the Toro Rosso idea.
In fact, they're going worse. You know why? Because what used to happen even with the Toro Rosso team is that it pretty much functioned how it does now, in the sense that they'll take some technology from Red Bull, but they also have like their own base and everything in Faenza, Italy, because obviously that's a remnant of the team's past. Now though, there are rumors again coming around that base may be shut down. They will be moving into the Red Bull campus. So in essence, it's as close to a B team as is possible. And truth be told, B teams in Formula 1, I mean, you have seen it before and you're seeing it even now. Haas are as close to a Ferrari B team as is possible, considering they buy every legal component that they are allowed to from Ferrari, which actually also can be good if the car is fast. It can be bad because what is the one major struggle that Haas have right now? Eating into the tires. I think it's inherent from the Ferrari at this point. So what we're going to talk about in this particular video, and again, this is something that has been an issue for a while. Is it time for Formula 1 and the FIA to clamp down on the concept, or the very concept of B teams?
Well, to start off, let's give a little bit of context into what has happened. So Red Bull and especially Helmut Marko has confirmed that AlphaTauri will no longer be AlphaTauri from 2024. It's going to get rebranded and a new sponsor is going to come in, a new name will be given to the team, and it's going to turn into what Toro Rosso used to be, you know, a B car for Red Bull, where drivers from the Red Bull Academy, the junior drivers, will be coming in and taking their seats. It will be sort of like a junior team to Red Bull, which is something that AlphaTauri wasn't.
Yeah, because it kind of it deviated from that multiple times.
Yes, but now it's going back to that similar format of being the number 2 team from Red Bull, because it will be sort of an entry point for young drivers to come in and get into Red Bull or whatever. That is not the point of this debate. The point of this debate is, should FIA, you know, stop with the, you know, disallow teams
from being B teams in essence. Now, see, the thing is that I remember, and this is where context is important since we're talking about it, Red Bull, when they purchased the Minardi team all the way back in 2006, it was unusual even then, because traditionally the rules ownership did not allow for one entity to own exactly 2 teams. In fact, the reason it was done was to ensure that it remained competitive and that you weren't using one team as basically a farm system. But at that point, the Minardi team was out of money. And F1 didn't want to lose more teams, because by that point, and people didn't realize it, the impact of the global recession was going to start kicking in. You had Toyota drop out, you had Honda drop out, you had a lot of teams just leave. Even BMW would leave in a couple of years. So there were a lot of teams leaving. F1 were keen not to lose more teams. So they said, yeah, you know what? One guy wants to own 2 teams. As long as 2 teams stay alive, we're good. However, the context of F1 has changed a lot. Now pretty much every team is profitable, to the point where Alpine, when they recently sold like a minority stake, got an instant cash injection of more than 200 million euros. That's a lot of cash. And that's because their value now is driven closer to €1 billion. That is massive, which means that every team right now actually is profitable.
And to add to that point, sorry to cut you off,
please go ahead.
Continue with that. But a new an analysis came out of Sportico, where they mentioned the most valuable teams in order. Ferrari was the number 1,
obviously.
Second Mercedes, and then Red Bull, McLaren at number 4. But Alpine was one of the, you know,
top 5.
No, not the top 5. It was one of the teams that were making a profit over 100 million.
Ooh, interesting.
And Haas, I think Haas or AlphaTauri, I don't exactly remember, were the only team that did not make a profit.
Which kind of makes sense when you think about it, considering AlphaTauri is basically 2 things. 1, a farm team, and B, AlphaTauri is basically a marketing stunt. They launched their cars during the New York Fashion Week, for crying out loud. Can you make it more obvious? Haas, on the other hand, yeah, they're one of those teams that we know went shopping around for money, which is why they had 2 rookie drivers in 2021. They were getting money from the Ferrari Academy for Mick, and of course Ural Kali for Mazepin. That one didn't work out so well. But the fact is, these teams now don't really need to be reliant to this extent. And truth be told, now with the cost cap in place, you can actually kind of, be a little more independent in terms of how it is you run your team. Obviously, I get it that Gene Haas always wanted like a tight unit. But again, the whole point of being an F1 shouldn't just be that you're happy to be there. What are your ambitions beyond being maybe an occasional point scorer?
Yeah.
And truth be told, AlphaTauri has never been that team. They've always been a farmless thing, and now they're moving even closer. So in essence, with Haas being like a Ferrari B team, with let's say AlphaTauri or whatever the team gets known as, going to become even closer to being a Red Bull B team, you have 2 B teams on the grid, which means in essence it's 8 teams that are competing. AlphaTauri have no sporting motive to exist.
Yeah, you know what, I kind of agree with that point, that there's not going to be much competition when one entity is owning 2 teams, which makes it 4 teams that are from the same entity.
And if you remember last year, in fact not last year, 2021, you'd always see this, that the AlphaTauri drivers would very easily move away for the Red Bull drivers whenever there was no battle. And I'm like, okay, I get it, they're owned by the same entity, but then where's the sporting this thing? It's not a sport.
Exactly, and the way that I see it is, you're kind of killing the competition, because F1 is already such a non-inclusive sport, and not everyone can be there. You need tons and tons of money to even be an F1 driver or be someone who's in the paddock there, right? And it's a sport of the elite, and it's very hard to get in anyway.
Even harder now, considering every team seeing like a drive-in, value.
Exactly. And now there's only 20 places on the grid. We've talked about it. Lewis Hamilton also has actually talked about this, that maybe there should be more teams, maybe even 30, God knows. But anyway, the point is that it's already such a small sport and such a small circle. If you're having 4 teams of the same entity or 2 teams from the same entity, you're kind of killing the sport, because if someone else can come in, maybe, I don't know, any company can come in.
Everyone wants a slice of the action right now.
Exactly.
I mean, look at Mario Andretti and his dad Michael. They've been and his son Michael, sorry, and they've been banging on and on about the fact that they want an F1 team. I'm just saying, if you have no use for AlphaTauri, why not just sell the team? They don't then have to come in as a new entrant. They buy into an existing entrant. Should actually make financial sense for them, because then they won't have to pay that massive anti-dilution fund, which by the way is valued at 200 million. The teams want it increased to nearly $1 billion. That is madness. But it shows you just how profitable Formula One is. So I'm just saying, if I'm an Andretti, I'm thinking I want to buy that team rather than come in as a new entry, because the new entry then causes problems. But and similarly, there are other teams. I've heard rumors of Hyundai wanting to enter the market. We know for a fact that Porsche, despite the fact that their interest kind of went after the Red Bull talks fell apart, they are keen too. Why would they not want to buy into an existing team? I mean, it would just make for a better sporting spectacle.
Yes, and I kind of get the point of having, a B team, because
of course
it is a big sport and you want to test your drivers on the track, right? In the action, you don't want to be a team that kind of gets a driver in from karting experience and then suddenly he's put into an F1 car. You don't want that either. So I understand having a B team, but you can also, I have a wild suggestion. B teams, move it to F2. Right? You can have as many B teams as you want in F2, test your drivers there and then get the drivers in, if that's what you're looking for. If your concern is having a junior team where you can test out young drivers, do it in F2.
And in fact, to add to your point, a lot of the big teams also have driver academies. So you'll see the likes of Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, now for that matter even Aston Martin are kind of investing in that. In fact, who's one of their first young drivers? Filipe Drugovich, last year's F2 champion. Now the point being is that you already have driver academies. We know for a fact Renault themselves have one, considering they had like a Jack Doohan, of course Piastri, probably their most successful academy graduate. These teams already have young driver programs. You don't need a young driver program in F1. Yes, if you're, and that's my argument, is that you don't need that, for the simple reason that if you're good enough to be in F1, then teams should have that faith in you that, look, we're going to put you straight in a car. Yes, you take your time and figure things out. In a season or two, if you find you're not cutting it, fair enough. But then look at someone like, say, for instance, a Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah.
How much has he radically improved from, say, 2021? Not that much. So what good is that 3-year, let's say, time period doing him in that team? Is he anywhere closer to being a Red Bull driver? No. So he's taking up a grid, which if this didn't have to be Red Bull's B team, or taking up a grid slot,
there could be some other competitive driver or a competitive team there.
A Drugovic could be there. Someone like Callum Ilott has been waiting for his turn forever.
He's won the F2 championship twice.
He couldn't have. You're not allowed to do that.
You are.
No, you're not. If you qualify, if you win the F2 championship, you're automatically.
I'm sorry. He won F3 and F2 consecutively.
Yes.
And he's still not in F1.
Exactly. In fact, Piastri had that same fate in 2022, where he had won F3, next year won F2, couldn't qualify for either of those, so then had to take a year as a reserve driver. So, truth be told, you have drivers who are waiting. There's no shortage of talent, even in the current crop. I mean, you look at just someone like even a Mick Schumacher, who's sitting on the sidelines. He could have been in one of these teams saying, yeah, you know what? Okay, fine, it might be lower down the grid, but at least I'm on the grid, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, and a lot of these drivers are losing their spot because, teams, because they have a lot of money, a lot of power, when a certain driver, doesn't perform well for too long or gets older than the ideal age, they kind of just discard it away, right? Yeah. These drivers could find a place. Look at Hülkenberg.
Yeah, Hülkenberg went and came back and went and came back. Yeah. In fact, for that matter, by the way, about that, like even if you're thinking about it, it's not just Haas. Even Alfa Romeo in recent times have kind of become an F1 Ferrari B team. Giovinazzi, Ferrari Junior, and in fact someone who recently won Le Mans with them. Yeah. Mick Schumacher, before he joined Haas, was rumored to join Alfa Romeo. Yes. Charles Leclerc, rookie season in Alfa Romeo. Again, a Ferrari Junior. Yeah. So there are so many of these instances, and I'm like, okay, good. In a way, it's good. I understand the benefit for the big teams, but I would rather have more teams, like actual teams who are competing.
Yes,
that would be more fun. Yes, even if they're not big teams.
Imagine a Porsche, an Aston Martin, and a Red Bull, Mercedes fighting off Audi.
Yes, that is the pinnacle of motorsport. Yes, not one B team versus B team 2. Yeah. That just makes no sense. I think we're in consensus in this one. It doesn't always happen.
Also, it happens. Yeah. This is another point that is, playing against B teams is that they're not financially supported as much as the A teams.
Obviously.
Yeah. So what's the point of having them there? Because you cannot make a competitive car that's going to, and I think now that I look at it, it looks like they don't do it purposely because you don't want to...
The B team to become more competitive.
Yeah. You don't want your B team to compete with your main team.
Exactly. In fact, if you remember when Toro Rosso won their first ever race, fun fact, they won it before Red Bull ever won a race, was that the Italian Grand Prix in 2008 when Seb took it. They didn't take it well because Seb was in the Red Bull seat next year. Like, oh, you guys won a race, cool. We'll take your driver, no problem. And the whole point of Toro Rosso and even AlphaTauri for that matter is to get them ready. On one hand, as I said, good for the big teams. But I would rather see more competition. True. That's pretty much the essence of sport. And I know that, with F1, there is a glitz and glamour and entertainment factor. There is, multiple things. But at the end of the day, the sporting side of it needs to be taken care of as well. Yes. And for me, I would enjoy the sport a lot more if you didn't have B teams, but you had even smaller A teams kind of going up against the bigger, more established teams. Yeah. So you can let us know also in the comments if you agree with this or if you're a fan of having these farm teams for, younger drivers. And of course, don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, tap the bell icon, and don't forget
to download the AajTak app.
Also, follow us across socials and stay tuned for more such videos. Right now though, from Gargi and me, it's bye-bye.